So we'll start with Coach's opening statement, and then we will open the floor to questions. Go ahead, Coach.
All right, Nicole, just want to first off say thank you for putting this together, and thank you to everybody on the call. And honestly, my opening statement is real simple. I have a lot of thank yous. And first, I want to start with our search committee, in particular, Charmel and Sandy Barber, for entrusting me with this role to be the next head coach of Nittany Lions softball. Just absolutely thrilled to be here. The next thank you is to all the Penn Staters. I've received a ton of support, especially by the members of the athletic department, coaches, and that's just been awesome. My next thank you is just everyone who's been here before me. So that's coaches, alumni. I know we have alums on this call today, and just want to just thank you guys for all being here and spending this time for me. And honestly, I just see this as I'm just the next head coach of Penn State softball and looking to carrying on what has already been built here. The next thank you, during transition, I know it's a tough time for our student athletes, and there's been 3 people who have helped our team and our student athletes with this transition. So I have to start with Charmel, Coach Cy or Coach Sarah Caffrey, and last, Christina Diaz, our director of operations. She's been absolutely fantastic. And to be honest, I'm not sure where I would be right now if it wasn't for her. So just looking forward to working with her. So thank you to all of you. And my last thank you, and it usually is always my last thank you, but it's to my family, because without them, I wouldn't be here, and just so grateful for their support. And in closing, I'm so excited to be the next leader of Penn State softball, and I'm looking forward to meeting everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Coach, for that. We'll start question-wise with Peter Terpstra of WTAJ. Let me unmute you really quickly.
I unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Perfect. That works. Thanks, Peter. Go ahead.
Cool. Hey, Coach. First off, I'm Peter. Sorry, I don't have my video on. My work setup does not have a camera. I'm with WTAJ. We're the CBS TV station in this area. First off, can you tell me how to pronounce your first and last name? Is it Crowell or Crowell?
Okay, first off, thank you, Peter, for being on the call and for that question. So first name is Clarisa, and my last name is Crowell. So,
okay, cool. Well, I'd like to apologize because when you were hired, I pronounced it Crowell. So there's that. Can you kind of walk me through the opportunity that you have here at Penn State, and what's just your general thoughts heading into this thing and your level of excitement?
Well, the level of excitement, that's an easy start. It's pretty high up there, to be able to come to a school such as Penn State, where the name and the brand sell itself. It's truly amazing for me, and it definitely is a dream opportunity. And Penn State has always been one of those positions that I've always thought, hey, if an opportunity presents itself, it would be something I'm interested in. I'll tell you, Peter, I'm a big why person, and my why for wanting to be here is really strong. Um, and one of the most important factors for me is the values and the mission of the department and the university. It definitely coincides with what I believe in as a head coach and as a leader and as a person. So that was a big part of it. And when you look at Penn State and everything that we have here, from our resources to our facilities, I think the sky is honestly the limit for what we're going to be able to do here. So obviously we're in some pretty tough times. However, I feel so great about the leadership here, and I know that they're going to get us through this. And right now, I'm just really excited to meet our student athletes in person. So.
We'll move on to Owen Abbey of Onward State. Next question. If you want to unmute yourself, Owen.
Hi, Coach. Welcome to Happy Valley. My first question is from a team perspective. There's, with what we saw from last year, what is your first impressions of how this team is and how they're going to be moving forward?
To be honest, I haven't even met them in person, so as far as from a softball standpoint, I'm I'm looking at a piece of paper that's all I've had, right? So I'm just looking forward to meeting them. But as far as what I see from what I have heard and what I have seen on paper is that we have a lot of potential and we have a lot of room for growth and development. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to develop and bring the most out of them as people, students, and athletes. And that's I mean, that's the plan right now. But again, I have only seen them on Zoom. I just need them to get on campus and I'll tell you, the start for me is just gonna to build on the culture that we have here at Penn State and just get to know my student athletes as people first and foremost. So that's kind of my top priority and what I have been and what my staff will, that's going to be our first initiative. But in short, Owen, I see a lot of potential. We've got a great pitcher in Bailey. We've got some kids in the lineup who swung the bat well. So I definitely think we have what we need to make progress going forward.
Alexis Yoder of the Daily Collegian, next question.
Hey, Coach. I saw when I was doing my research before doing this call that you've worked primarily with pitchers and catchers throughout your time as a coach at the collegiate level. What potential do you see in the Penn State pitching staff specifically, especially Bailey Partial, who kind of emerged as the leader at the position? And what are you excited to get to work on with this staff since they do have so much potential?
Absolutely. We'll have to start with Bailey. She ended the shortened season as the Big Ten pitcher of the week. And anytime you can have that accolade in this conference, that says a lot. She was also ranked in the country 8th when we're talking about strikeouts per 7 innings. I mean, the kid has a ton of potential. Love the fact that she's only going to be a junior and she's a lefty pitcher. What I really like seeing with Bailey was her progress from her freshman year to her sophomore year. I take a lot of pride in developing my pitching staff, my athletes in general, but in particular our pitching staff. I know we have Vanessa, we've got 3 other great pitchers that are going to be on staff, and in order to be successful at our level, we need to have a staff, right? And just kind of looking at where we're at right now. I believe we've got 4 good pitchers that I'm just going to make better, and that's my goal. And I'm not going to stop until I do that. So just my overall philosophy is, in order for us to be successful, we need to pitch and we need to play defense first and foremost. And that's going to be what we're going to do. So my job out on the field is going to be to develop pitchers. And I know that, that's going to happen. So I appreciate the call or the question.
Next question will go to Justin McLeod of Justin's World.
Hey, Coach. I just want to ask you about the process of, the interview process and ultimately taking the job. What was it? You mentioned that it was a job that you'd kind of always said was something that became open, you were interested. Can you kind of walk me through your thought process during, applying in the interview process and ultimately accepting the position?
Right. So to start with, why Penn State, it checks all the boxes that I have as a person and as a coach. I will say that I loved my time at Miami, and it was going to take the right opportunity for me to pursue it. And I've said this before, but it took me about a week to put my name in the hat for this position, because initially, you think Power 5, you think Penn State, but for me, the why needed to be stronger than that. And honestly, Justin, after I spoke to a lot of people and I did my own research on Penn State and, what my colleagues and my mentors and people who I'm close to in the business, what they said, and everybody had nothing but great things to say about Penn State and the potential of Penn State. So with doing a lot of, with a lot of thought and consideration, I really felt that this was the right next move for me with where I'm at in my career. And as far as the interviewing process, I think we all know we're living in some different times. And, I think our administration made the absolute best of what they could do as far as the interviewing process is concerned. And, just fortunate to be here in Happy Valley right now.
Before I go back to the top, did I miss any media members that are on this call? If so, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself. I don't think I did. All right, we'll go back to the top with Peter Terpstra.
Hey, Coach. When it comes to building a program, what kind of things have to happen? And what is it going to take for Penn State softball to become, a power in the Big Ten?
Right. First off, you need to win the people and you need to build the culture, and that is my primary focus right now. Obviously, from a softball standpoint and recruiting and our needs and all that, that is and obviously a huge part of what we're going to do. But right now, that's the focus. I need to bring our kids together. I need to create an atmosphere that they feel like they can thrive in, a family-like atmosphere. We will become the Nittany Lion Ohana with the softball team. And I have learned, Peter, that if you don't start there and you don't build the culture strong, everything else, it doesn't work. I feel that I did find success at Miami, and my mission here and my values and what we're going to do here is really no different. I was able to build a really strong culture there of hard work, grittiness, respect. And you ask anybody who followed our team there, and they will most likely say that. So those are my initial intentions when I come here. And right now, again, I keep going back to it, but it's just the honest truth is I just have to get to know my student athletes first and foremost. And I'm a firm believer in comprehensive excellence. That's why I feel that Penn State's a great fit for me, because we will develop them as people, as leaders, and as students. And I expect us to also excel out on the field. So the softball piece is honestly just kind of on the back burner right now, because there's some other things that we need to get done on the front end.
Oh, and Abby of Onward State.
So you alluded to this earlier, but with the fact that adjusting to a new team is difficult on its own, but in the current climate we are today, it's a little more challenging. What are some ways that you're trying to familiarize yourself with the players, get to know them, and create that team bond right from the jump?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's my focus right now. I'm a very intentional person, and everything that I do, there's a purpose and there's a reason behind it. So I've only officially started at Penn State on Monday, and this has all kind of been just 2 weeks. But in that 2 weeks, I have made sure to text my student athletes. I've made sure I've made personal calls to each and every single one of them. Christina Diaz has helped with our Zoom meetings. We're already talking about culture and what looking at and studying other programs and organizations and what are other teams doing to be successful. So I will expect the same from my staff as far as, hey, when you guys get on board, the first priority, and I've told Stephanie this is, hey, we need to start making the calls. So, just doing as much as I can, given the circumstances. I did have one student athlete that reached out and say, hey, coach, can I meet you? And I had to tell her we're just going to have to give it some time. So Diaz and I have already planned. The kids we're going to go on a social distance campus tour once we're all cleared. They're going to walk us around campus. We've already planned a social distance dinner with carryout boxes in our outfield. So we're putting some plans together to definitely facilitate and help build our relationships with our student athletes.
Alexis Yoder, Daily Collegian.
Hey, Coach. So every coach seems to have some sort of philosophy about what team means and what team culture and chemistry means and looks like. I know the previous softball coach was very big on it. Every time we had an interview, it would always go back to team culture, team culture. So what was successful with that when you were at Miami, and what do you see on implementing into this team, and what have you learned already? Like, what seems to be successful when it comes to team culture and chemistry for you?
It's everything, to me. And I will say that being a head coach for 8 years, I think you kind of talk about culture early on, but I don't think you really understand it until you're a little bit more seasoned and a little bit more, you have that experience. But a couple years ago, I said I'm going to be extremely intentional about culture, what it is, what it means. And our student athletes at Miami, they knew what we were about there. But it takes time to build that. And I'll tell you, I'm coming in here, and first and foremost, we're going to develop and create a culture of family and ohana. So I'm originally from Hawaii, so you all will hear me say the word ohana a lot, which just means family, and it's going to start with that. Our kids are going to have to understand my standards and expectations, and one of them is a commitment to excellence. My student athletes at Miami were hardworking, they were gritty, they were resilient, and they were respectful, and they did things the right way. So that is something that eventually I'm going to look to build here at Penn State. However, I need to see where our team is at, right? So I can come in here with a vision and a plan, but what I've learned is that it doesn't matter if you don't meet your kids halfway, or you don't find that middle ground. So although I have a vision and a plan, I'm right now trying to see where our student athletes are at. Where is our team at? The questions that I've been asking them, and this was on our Zoom call last week: why did they choose Penn State? Why did they want to be a part of Penn State softball? Our call next week is going to be, what is the current culture of Penn State softball? So I'm starting there with trying to just figure out where we are as a team, and figure out how are we going to mesh the values and standards that I have as a coach and the vision with where our current student athletes are at. So I think a long-winded answer. I'm a big culture person, and I love talking about it. I think it's one of those words that people kind of throw out, but they don't actually know what it means, or what their particular team or organization is about. But eventually, through time, our student athletes here at Penn State will know and understand what we're about here.
Justin McLeod, Justin's World.
Coach, I know you've already officially added Stephanie to your coaching staff. Can you talk about the rapport the two of you have and the qualities that you're looking for when you comes time to hire your second assistant?
Man, I tell you, Justin, she wouldn't be coming with me if I didn't think the absolute world of her. And Stephanie was a big part of our success in 2019. And I tell you, she is, first off, her values as a person are second to none. She and I, and that's even with the other assistant that we will be bringing on, and any assistant that I ever bring on, their values have to match the values that I have as a person and as a coach. And that means that they care about our student athletes, they care about relationship building. So with Stephanie, that is just the person that she is. She will bring energy, she will bring positivity, she will bring enthusiasm, she will relate well to our student athletes. And on the field, she is knowledgeable, she is passionate, and she is hardworking. And I'm pretty sure I just recited my quote because what I said in my press release, about her, was just the honest truth. She's a person of integrity, and I know that our student athletes are going to vibe really well with her. She's someone who's familiar with the Big Ten, as she played at Michigan State. She's familiar with this area. The other thing about Steph was she was at Villanova, so she also has strong ties out on the, from a recruiting standpoint, out east in Pennsylvania. So I can go on and on about her strengths, but I think she's going to be fantastic for our program. And with this next, our other assistant that we'll be bringing on, it's someone that I feel strongly will, be a great fit for Penn State softball as well. So we can talk about that whenever that comes to fruition.
We'll go one more time through the room here, back with Peter.
Hey, Coach. I just want to talk a little bit about your I guess background or life. So you grew up in Hawaii and then moved to Maryland, correct?
Yes.
First off, can you just kind of talk about, because when you said that Hawaiian word on the last question I answered, or you asked me, or I asked you, took me off. I was caught off guard. I was like, wait, what? And so you grew up in Hawaii. Can you talk about how maybe Hawaiian culture has influenced you, and what kind of passions or things that you like to do outside of softball?
Yeah, Peter, I'm just so nobody has ever asked me that question about my culture and what it means to me. So I appreciate that very much. And I'll tell you that the culture and my family that I come from is the reason why I am and why I operate the way that I do as a coach and as a leader. So my story is both of my parents are from Hawaii. They grew up there. All of my family is, for the most part, back on the islands. And I mean, on every island, I even have family on Molokai, which I don't think most people even know that that's an island. So, but the biggest thing with Hawaiian people is that concept of you live aloha, which means you live by love, and everything you do is because of that, and you are a family person. And if you know anything about Polynesian culture, we are very family oriented. And those two things in my life and in my culture is what drive me to operate the way that I do, today. But so my dad was in the military though, and he got stationed at Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C. So I tell everybody this: I'm an island girl turned East Coaster. My mom, dad, and at least when I have some family in the DC area, and for the most part, that's where I grew up. So for me to have been everywhere that I've been on my coaching journey, but to make it back to the East Coast and only be 4 hours away from there, from my family and my parents and them, I mean, it's a really big deal for me. So, but yeah, so I apologize. I just assume everybody saw Lilo and Stitch and knows what Ohana means. But yeah, so you will hear me reference that a lot. I'm a very proud Hawaiian, and so yeah, and coming here, it's no different. I will love my student athletes, my staff, and I'll do anything that I can for them. And we're going to create that family like atmosphere. So.
And do you have any passions outside of softball?
Sorry. Yes, I love spending time with my family, my friends. That's the big thing. I absolutely love the beach. I still have that Islander, in me. I love the sun. I love being out. So I missed recruiting for a lot of different reasons this summer, but no, honestly, just having time to spend with my people is my most favorite thing to do. And I could just be sitting outside on a grilling out with my family, and that's my happy place. And when I can make it back to Hawaii, I try to get back as much as I can. So I appreciate that question.
Oh, and Abby, back Onward State.
So I know it's early. I know you're still getting to know your team and to create those bonds. But what are some goals or expectations that you have going into not only just this off season, but into the season at large?
Right, to be better than where we were last year. And that's it. And again, I said this before, but we're going to build our pitching staff, and we're going to build our defense, because that's where success begins. You have to be able to do those two things. But as far as every coach has different philosophies, so from an offensive standpoint, coaches last year had a different, they had their philosophy, and our hitting coaches are going to have, we're going to take a look at what we think our offense can do to manufacture as many runs as we can. And our job defensively is going to be to try to stop as many runs from scoring as we can. But I mean, honestly, from a big picture standpoint, we want to be contenders in the Big Ten. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Any coach, any student athlete who competes at this level, they want to be successful. But in order to be successful, we really need to focus on what we're doing each day to be at our very best. It's a mindset that we have to grow. But yeah, so do we want to be successful in the spring? Absolutely. But I want our kids to think limitlessly when it comes to goals. There's not just going to be that one goal. We're going to have several goals that are going to lead us to that ultimate goal. But my job is to, from just a softball X's and O's standpoint, is to progress and get this team to be one of the best in the Big Ten. Now, I'm going to be honest, that's going to take, it's going to take some time to get there, but I do believe in what we're going to be able to do.
Alexis Yoder, Daily Collegian.
Hey, Coach. So I'm not sure what your background is in recruiting. Like, personally, have you gone out and done any recruiting in as your time as a coach. But I just want to know, where do you see from a recruiting standpoint sort of your selling points to get some more talent into this program? I know you mentioned your assistant being a coach at Villanova, being with Villanova for some time, has some ties in Pennsylvania, but where do you see where you can really get some talented athletes into your program from a recruiting standpoint?
Right. So Alexa's first thing is, as a head coach, I've always done majority of, the recruiting. I'm that head coach that I'm going to be highly involved in everything that we do, and recruiting is first and foremost. So I love recruiting. I'm pretty tireless on the recruiting trail. So as far as that part of it, I will be out and about as much as I can possibly be. The one great thing about where I'm coming from Ohio, right? So in the Midwest, so I'm well familiar with this region, and that's going to be where we're going to hit hard. We're going to hit Pennsylvania, we're going to hit the East Coast, and we're going to hit the Midwest, because there's a lot of great talent just in this area. Our goal as a staff, first and foremost, is going to be to get the best kids in Pennsylvania to come in and be Nittany Lions. But I'm from a recruiting standpoint, because I have, I've recruited for so many years. I've got strong ties with all the right people in the business and the travel ball coaches. So, just kind of looking what we're going to need to do. Our goal is going to be to go out and bring impact players into the program that are going to be different makers right off the bat for us. So that is, that's going to be the goal. And as far as the sell, it's easy. It's Penn State. And I will tell you, at Miami, the recruiting battles that we lost there were to the Big Ten. So now we are in a position where we're going to win those battles against the other schools in the Big Ten. So.
Justin, go ahead.
Coach, actually continuing the recruiting topic, how have you navigated this summer recruiting? Obviously not at fields, virtually, that kind of thing. How have you navigated that the last few months?
Lots of phone calls and lots of computer time with the virtual recruiting. And I think that's probably what, a lot of coaches are doing. Lots of videos. I think I've put so much more emphasis on video footage than I probably have in the past. But I think there's been some silver lining to what we were able to do. I think I was able to watch a lot more softball and a lot more skill work than I think I've ever really had an opportunity to do before. So, but yeah, just making sure that I was staying connected to travel ball coaches and letting them know, hey, we're watching and checking in to games on Facebook and on Twitter. But yeah, I think that's pretty much, we did as most as we could from a recruiting standpoint, given the nature of what we're going through right now.
I'll open the floor to our media members if there was any final questions that you had for Coach C.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
I'm Brett Crosley from North Central PA.
Hi, Brett. Go ahead.
Hi. My question is, you talked about recruiting in the District 4 or the Pennsylvania area. There's been a wealth of talent in District 4 and District 6, which is right in the Penn State area. How committed are you going to be to trying to get those kids on the team and become members of Penn State?
Yeah, as long as they're, kids that we feel that can come in and make an impact for our program, I'm going to be absolutely committed to that. So of course, any talent that's in this immediate area, we absolutely will go after the kids that we think can be different makers for our program, as we will with everybody else in the state of Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
I missed you before, Brett. Did you have any more questions? Or are you okay?
No, they were answered. That was the one I had about this area.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Any other questions from our media members? All right, Coach, do you have any final thoughts, comments you wanted to share before we wrap this up?
I just want to thank everybody for being on this call today, and just know how excited I am to be here at Penn State, and we are.